I'm solving thousands of people's problems. I made a lot of money. I flipped over 1,000 cars.
Now you're taking it to the next level. You guys are flying out and doing all of it. Somebody just starting out.
That's 2.25 billion. It's not a bad number.
No.
You said pretty close to a billionaire.
But it changed my life. A lady just posted, you guys aren't doing your jobs right. And all they do is ridicule in public. There's 2 billion stars in our solar system, 4 trillion solar systems. Our problems aren't that freaking big.
I mean, just because of how easy it is to create a business and make a couple dollars here and make a couple dollars there by not actually being a good leader.
She always told me, she couldn't be home for dinner every night. My grandma was around a lot. And she's just like, I love you no matter what. Whatever you decide to do in your life. And I wasn't getting good at grades because I was always...
Welcome back to the podcast, The Playbook, joined by Rio Osorio. My name is Daniel Giles, and we're joined today by the one and only Tommy Mello, owner of A1 Garage since, 2007?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for hopping on the pod today. It's an honor to be able to hop on with you, get to know you, and ask you some questions.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. And I don't know if everybody, I think most people in the sales industry know who Tommy Mello is and the A1 Garage is. Tell us a little bit about what makes A1 a little bit different. What do you guys do? Like, what is the business model that you guys have?
Yeah, so 2007, I kind of just fell into the industry painting garage doors. Met with technicians, got the samples of the garage doors, and I kept meeting with these technicians. This is 2005 and 6. And these guys were making 90 grand a year back then. And back then I was painting a door for $100. I'd make 80 on the 100 profit. And, it was great because I could paint 10 doors in a day, Saturday, Sunday. Back then I could knock out $1,600 in a weekend. I was bartending, didn't know much about business. I thought I did. I knew how to form an LLC. I knew how to get an EIN number. But we got into business. What do you do back then? You get it the last year of the Yellow Page ads. And we were like on page 4, never got a phone call from it. Made a lot of mistakes. We repair and install new garage doors. We sell service agreements as well. And I studied HVAC for like 5 years. I went to every $100 million shop. And they were like, sure, you're a garage door guy. Come on in. You can meet with our C-suite, anything you want. Meet our trainers. And really placed myself in the best rooms for a long time. And I met a lot of great people along the way. And then I heard about this software called Service Titan, and they only worked with HVAC plumbing. And I was like, I need to get on this software. So I got no 9 times, got a hold of the CEO, Ara Madessian, on LinkedIn. He called me up and said, dude, I'm sorry, we're focused. I'm sure you can understand that. I said, dude, I won't let you down. I talked to him for like an hour. He still has it printed out on his wall because he decided to take a chance on us, sent out 10 success managers. Then
What kind of numbers were you doing at that point?
I want to say 2017, we were probably doing around north of 15 million, but it was a cluster. Our CRM, my COO at the time was like, it's not a software issue, it's a people problem. I'm like, the software we were on is called Aptora. It was built in 1980. We had to have our own server. I'm like, I want to be on the cloud.
Never even heard of this, so
It's
a little bit old.
It was really cool in the 90s. But, we got on that, and then I started going to all these HVAC conventions and Pantheon and Service Titan events and meeting these HVAC guys more and more.
Yeah.
Then I met a guy named Al Levy, and he walks into my shop when I first started the Home Service Expert podcast, and he's like, do you mind if I come look at your shop? And it was a cluster. I knew all the answers. There was nothing written down, no systems. We were just firefighters. We did a great job of putting out fires all day. And I could handle customer reviews if they were 1 stars. I could handle basically any problem. We didn't have a formal training center. And Al said, I'll work with you, but you got to only listen to me. You can't read any more books. You can't go visit any other shops. No more ideas. You got to turn off your cell phone when we're. And so we built 3 manuals: the technician, the CSR, the dispatcher manual. And then we started building out other manuals and reforming the way we do the org chart. Then we built a depth chart. Then we built a training center. And Al's like, you're going to get so bored because everything's going to be systematic. And I did get bored. And then we started scaling. And then scaling more. And in our industry, there's no, and I'm not saying this to be cocky, I'm very humble still, but there's no number 2. There's nobody doing, we're pacing right now for about 245 million, but with the acquisition pipeline, the greenfield strategy, we'll be just short of 300 if everything. The real thing is I used to pump my chest when I'd walk in a room and be like, talk about revenue.
Yeah.
Now I talk about, we're hitting 24.5%, 25% bottom line.
You had a quote the other day on one of your videos, and it was a quote about revenue and then profit.
Revenue is for vanity, profits for sanity.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so time out really quick. Before we get into, obviously, we know that you're incredibly successful. Your business is scaled. It's massive. You're in, 35 different states at this point?
35 markets. I think we're in 19 or 20 states. I don't know. We got out of 2 markets because they didn't have the scalability to get to 3 million.
Okay, so before we get there, I want to know about who was Tommy Mello before he started A1. Like, how old were you? Where did you come from? How did you hear about garage doors? That's not a, I mean, when I got into sales, I'd never heard about selling garage doors. It was like life insurance, it was solar, it was Medicare, selling cars, stuff like that. Garage doors wasn't really a big thing that
Well,
I
but I
heard
mean,
about.
to take it back on what you're saying though, like, is your family entrepreneurs? Like, was this in you, or it was just like you got into it, you saw what someone else is doing, and you're like,
Yeah, well, it was all kind of by accident. You know, I'm from Michigan. My mom and dad got a divorce when I was 7. My mom decided she was going to work 3 jobs, keep us in the same school. She was a real estate agent. My dad owned a transmission shop, did not pay the IRS. So he went through this mental battle. Great dad still, but mom worked her butt off. And she always told me, I mean, she couldn't be home for dinner every night. My grandma was around a lot. And she's just like, I love you no matter what. Whatever you decide to do in your life. And I wasn't getting good at grades because I was always like shoveling snow or mowing lawns and trying to figure out, like, I hated when mom had to buy me something. When I was 12, I got a job under the table washing dishes for $4.05 an hour at Rookies Clubhouse. It was a cool job. And, you know, I always was hustling, always a hustler, always figuring out ways to make money. I moved to Phoenix when I was 16. I wanted to be closer to my dad. He moved out here in 96. I moved out in 99. And I went to Mountain View my last year, which is a school in Mesa. Really, really good school. Lots of Mormons. They really were great. They accepted me, and I'm not Mormon, but great people, made some good friends. And then I just started busting tables again, started a small landscape company, figured out how to make a lot of money. But whenever I took a vacation, it cut off, $0.
Did you go to school or no?
Yeah, I ended up so I was pre-dental. So my first classes were biochem, anatomy, physiology, organic chem, advanced calculus. In community college, I went and interned with a dentist, and they were like, the dentist was 47. He goes, I still have $300,000. He goes, do you like working in people's mouths, or do you like business? I'm like, honestly, I like the business side of it. And I figured, what could I do for the least amount of time and make the most amount of money?
And you're like, how old at this point?
I was like 22, 23.
Okay.
Right before I started A1.
So you went to school to be a dentist.
Yeah. I was getting ready to take the DAT, and he said,
And you go get your teeth checked out, and the dentist says, are you sure you want to do this?
no, I was interning with him because I had all my prerequisites. And he said, dude, if I were you, I'd take the GMAT and get a master's degree in business because I know nothing about business. I work for somebody else, and I'm still in debt. And he's like, it's not the funnest job in the world, most fun. So I ended up taking the GMAT, knocked it out of the park. And at this point, I had a DUI. And in Tent City, I studied for 3 days, my 3-day stint. And I read this book about how to beat the GMAT. And all my room, like literally everybody was trying to go into business school and get the GMAT. And I went and freaking scored out of the park because like this book had like, read the questions first. It gave me every little like way to beat the test. And so I got into the garage door business because my roommate was managing this garage door company who was very good at booking calls, getting the right technician there. My other roommate started working. And that's when he came up to me and started asking me if I could paint the garage doors. And I'm bartending, man. I was flipping Bowflexes, flipping Total Gyms. I'd buy them on Craigslist, sell them in the Arizona Republic, making $300, $400, $500 a pop. I mean, literally, I had 10 Bowflexes in the back of my house, and I ran an ad for 3 years in the Arizona Republic. And I got this idea because I saw an ad on Bowflex, and the day I saw the ad, I go into the Sunday paper really early in the morning. I call the guy up. One Bowflex is there. And Bowflexes back then were like still $2,400. And there's one for like $1,400. And I'm like, I'll come right now. He's like, dude, you're the 10th person that called. Somebody already picked. And my buddy walks by and he goes, have you ever heard of the Craigslist? And I'm like, the Craigslist? No. So I go there. I found 3 of them. I bought them all, called AZ Republic. And then I see a Chuck Norris ad. I'm like, I want that Total Gym. Go on Craigslist, start selling Total Gyms. I mean, I made a lot of money. I flipped over 1,000 cars. Damn. Literally 1,000. I buy G20s and Honda Civics, so Infinities and Honda Civics. And I bought 50 tires at a time. And I'd replace the tires, get it detailed. And like, I knew how to make it. But when I entered in the garage door space, man, me and my roommate owned the company. And we kept failing. Like, we were making enough money to pay bills, but we weren't making any money. In 2010, I told him, listen, dude, you could take on the debt or I'll take on the debt. We owe Yellow Pages. We owe Valpak money. Like, this company, like, I just don't see eye to eye with you. He's coming out
Wait, this is 2010?
Yeah, 2010, we went our separate direction.
So didn't you start A1 in 2007?
I did with a partner.
Okay.
It was A1 Garage Door Specialists. To make a clean breakup, I called it A1 Garage Door Service.
Okay.
But I took that company and rolled it into mine, but had a clean separation. So I took all the stickers. I still owned the phone number. I still owned everything, but there was debt now. And I'm like, man, the biggest thing in 2010 was I don't trust anybody. Like everybody would never show up. It was like, I didn't know how to manage people. So I called my mom one day and I said, would you move? My stepdad lost his job and he was making great money at American Axle. It's a OEM parts manufacturer. And I said, Bill, I could only pay you like half of making a mom. I could start you off at like $14 an hour. And they're like, screw it. We want to be by you. And my sister lived out here. So they took a chance on me, took a huge pay cut, sold their house, moved away from everything they knew. And I just went out and sold. I handled all the reviews. I cut all the videos. I did the hiring. Bill handled the payroll, the inventory. My mom tried to book as many calls as she could. And we started making money. I mean, we were making, in 2014, we were at 5.5. And Bill got raises through the process. And she started slowing down, but she still helped out clerical and trained the CSRs. And then I found a guy named Adam, and Adam took a chance on me. I was like, dude, I'm just going to pay you whatever I got, whenever I got. So every few weeks, I'd give him a few grand. Maybe a good week, I'd give him $1,500. There was no rhyme or rhythm to it, but Adam was smart as hell. When he put his mind to something on the back end, he figured out systems very quickly. I mean, he had a good degree in business. And me and Adam, I used to call it the T&A show, Tommy and Adam, because we ran everything and did everything. And one thing led to another. We got on a service tight and built the company up, made a lot of moves. We got the company in 2022 to 27.5. Ended up getting a very, very large exit, and I could go into that. And I rolled half the
Don't get
equity.
there yet, but what happened to Adam?
So all my managers came up to me, and this is a story I don't really talk about much, and they're like, Adam's become like, he holds all the keys to the city. Unfortunately, on my fault, I was paying Adam to conserve money, and I was paying everybody else on growth. So there was this really bad dynamic.
Right.
And they came up to me, and they're like, we're all quitting if Adam stays as the CEO. And dude, this was like the worst of my life. I had to make this decision. So I hired this guy, Dan. And Dan's like, Adam, you'd be much better suited in this other position on acquisitions and like the training of GDF, which was Garage Door Freedom, which was a best practices and became an acquisition thing. And he moved Luke into COO. And then we recruited a CFO, and that made all the difference in the world. And then Adam was just like, after the money all came in, he's like, I just want to retire. I'm not happy. I had the top position in the company other than you. We worked great together. And, you know, it wasn't really Adam's fault. It was more my fault, but something had to change, and I had to make big moves. And it was like almost like a chess game where I had to look literally 10 moves ahead. And it was like played out great because when Adam started for me, I said, what's your number? He goes, I want to work for you till my kids. And back then he didn't have any kids, but 2 years later, he's like, till my kids go to graduate high school. And he goes, I want $5 million. Well, he ended up getting triple that out of the deal. So I fulfilled my end of the bargain. Me and Adam are still best of friends.
How do you make that decision as a business? I mean, just as a business person, when your friendships are involved and you built something from basically, mom and pop level all the way to the scale that it was at that point. Like, how do you make that decision?
There's really hard decisions. Yeah, and the quicker you make the hard decisions, the better you feel. Yep. And you stay up late at night. It's torment. Some days there's a 12-pack involved, and you're contemplating, you're whiteboarding, you're trying to figure out what to do. But you, deep down in your soul, you know the right decisions to make. And you kind of got to just take that leap and see how it plays out. And there's not this perfect answer. It kind of works itself out. Every time I actually took a leap of faith and made a move, it's always worked out. Listen, we're only on this earth. In 100 years, no one will remember who we are. Like, our problems are nothing. There's 2 billion stars in our solar system, 4 trillion solar systems. Our problems aren't that freaking big. And if I remind myself of that, I'm like, just freaking go. Like, run for it. And I'm a sprinter, man. I am a grower. I'm like, I'm willing to take chances all the time. And I've got a touch of ADHD, which I think every business owner does. But I've learned if I get really organized people around me, and I could kind of figure out what my top 5 out of the 100 things I'm focused on, like continue to make my top 5 and have really good EAs work with me, like I could get more. And I've learned my place in the company. I'm the motivator, I'm the marketer, and I'm the sales guy. and I'm the best at the marketing.
So how do you differentiate between like what your roles and obligations on a daily basis need to be when you know that you probably could be the best in every position, but how do you create efficiency for yourself and wear the hats that you need to wear?
Well, Al Levy taught me there's two things I need to be the best at: marketing and knowing the numbers. And if I could master those two things, hire everybody better than me at everything else. So I used to hire somebody that was slightly dumber. I'm like, I wanted the control. I wanted to be the coolest guy in the room and have the answers. Now I'm like, man, this guy actually enjoys what he does, and he could run circles around me. When I met Dan Miller and our CFO, Adrian, and these guys are just whizzes. And then we met our FP&A, financial planning and analysis, and this girl worked at Amex for 17 years and did these models and like told us data about the company. If we switch this and change the price on and get rid of this marketing, all of a sudden we went from 17 to 19 to 22 to 25%. And I'm like, man, I think we could get this business to 30+%. But I think the key ingredient was I started the podcast, and I got really smart people on the podcast. When I was having a problem with HR, I found the number one person in HR on the planet. And when I was having a problem with like recruiting, I found the best recruiters. When I was a problem getting trucks, I got the enterprise, one of the highest people at enterprise, to learn lease versus own. And so I was getting all my answers from the podcast and networking with the right people. Then I started speaking on stages and giving all my stuff away. I remember my managers were like, "You're doing shop tours with our competitors? Dude, we've worked so hard to get here." And I said, either I'm the dumbest guy on the planet or this is the right move. And I took a chance, and all of a sudden these guys used to say, "Listen, we thought you were like trying to do something malicious, like you're gonna bring us and give us some bad advice." But they almost felt like indebted to me and started helping me. And that's what's crazy about it, is like when you put out good, Zig Ziglar once said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want. And I've lived that for the last 6 or 7 years. And, now our podcast was #1 in a business category. It's number 12 in business. And it's getting 220,000 downloads a month, is because people are like, when I listened to podcasts 1 through 40, it got me to 10 million. When I listened to 41 through 80, it got me to 20 million. It's like, because you listen to it as I'm growing. So you go back, and the beginning ones sucked. I listened to them, and I'm like, man, that was horrible. But back then, there was really not a lot of podcasts out there.
You touched on something that's pretty rare to hear from a business owner, especially of that scale, and it was that I realized that I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room. Do you think that's what's holding most businesses back, is that ego that's attached to either the ownership or the executives? Like, they don't want to put people in a room that's smarter. They want to stick to their salaries, and they feel like it's going to be a competition if they do.
I think there's a lot of ego involved, and I think, quite frankly, the people aren't willing to take a chance to recruit the people. When I learned what equity incentive programs, and I could vest people's equity, I could get top talent for the potential of them making millions of dollars. And I think most people go, "Oh, I could afford a $70,000. Well, to get the cream of the crop, you might be able to get them for $120,000 with bonus, but they get equity incentive program, which is EIP, which at the valuation today, that's mine. What it grows, let's say it's worth, for the sake of numbers, $10 million, and we get to $30 million value, and I give them 1%. They get 1% of that difference. So 20 million, they get 1%, which is 200,000. But our numbers were way bigger than that. So a lot of people made a lot of millions of dollars. As it grew and the equity incentive program became bigger, I just think a lot of people are like, "Man, I can't hire anybody good." And I'm like, "Let me see your compensation program. How are these people getting compensated?" And most people call me, they're like, what do I even base a general manager on? Is it like EBITDA growth? Is it revenue growth? Is it what KPIs? And they don't even know. And I'm like, "Well, what's your booking rate? What's your conversion rate? What's your average ticket? What's your lead cost per lead?" They don't know. And they don't know what they need to fix. And their data's all skewed. And they don't even know when they show up on a Monday what they should be doing, because they're listening to podcasts or reading books, and I need to do EOS, and I need to figure out this, and I need to figure out how to get the KPIs. And they're just confused. And I think that's a lot of people's problems, is they don't even know what's going on in their business. Like, it's almost like trying to lose weight and just saying, "I want to lose weight," instead of saying, if I go on a calorie deficient, I get 20,000 steps a day. I pay attention to my macros, which macros is a fancy word for protein, fat, and carbs. And if I follow this diet and I get this many steps in and I get this much sleep, I'm guaranteed to lose weight. But most people run their business, they say, "I want to make more money." I'm like, "Well, how much? By when? What do you need to retire?" Like, they say, "I just want to get as big as I could." They're not written down. They really don't know where they're going. It's like getting behind the wheel and saying, "Hey, we're going on a family trip," but they don't know what car they're driving. They didn't know what to pack for. They don't know where the destination is. They just started driving west, and they don't know when they're going to even get to their destination.
Yeah.
So-
So,
go ahead.
kind of touching on confusion, what you said, and taking it back to Al Levy, do you think that was probably one of the most significant things that? So, we've had same thing. We've had some badasses on here too, and we get a lot of information from them. A handful of them have said the same thing as you did, that Al Levy told you. They're like, I shut everybody else out. There's information coming from her. I shut everybody else out, and I just listened to this person, and that's all I did, and I did it until I was successful. Do you think Al Levy coming in to play like that was like probably one of the most significant?
There's never been a stage or an opportunity I've had not to give Al Levy credit. Other than my mom and dad, if there's one man that literally helped me out the most, he wrote the 7-Power Contractor, and he puts it in simple terms. It's not a big book. And he teaches manuals, standard operating procedures, checklists to have a clear org chart with positions and hierarchies, a depth chart, and where your business should be laid out. Because at first it was easy to get a hold of me. Now you go through my place, it's very hard to even get access to me. I'm not a guy-to-minute manager anymore. And Al was like, just said, dude, shut up. He used to say, stop. Let's talk about this and just be quiet. And I used to have to put my cell phone in a bucket. And we sat there and grinded on systems. And then we had checks and balances to make sure, because there's 3 reasons usually a business fails. There's no systems, it's the wrong system, or the system's not being followed. Number 3 being the biggest one. You created a system, but you didn't really work on the system. And how do you know the systems? We created an 8-step sales process, but we had no idea if the process was being fulfilled. And now we got a lot of technology. And I'm the first one to adapt new technology. Like anybody will tell you where we were 6 months ago, we're a different company. And I've embraced change. And anybody that knows our company, they're like, great, Tommy's going to change again. He's going to do something. We're going to have a new software we're running. We're going to have this. We're going to have some AI, blah, 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 blah. But we're on the cutting edge. But I'm also not the earliest adopter that I'm like, we're going to go through all the bugs because we're too big for that. Right. But here's one of the best pieces of advice I could tell you that I tell people is I'm a very good detective of finding the best in the world. If I want to know who's number 1 on organic, I go to the largest metro with the most density, the hardest to compete for like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, and I type it in with an IP address. I just go in and like put my IP address from that location, and I log into a server and I do a search and I find the number 1 company at the number 1 SEO, and I call them up and I ask for advice. And I tell them, I'll fly out there. I've read your book. I'll buy you guys lunch. I will give you value. And then they give me all the answers. They tell me who they use and how they do it. Then I do the same thing for Yelp. Then I do the same thing for the best media buyers. Then I do the same thing for who's the best. I call ServiceTitan and I said, who's got the highest booking rate in the company? Like, we'd have to give you permission to get that. They say, sure, Tommy Mello wants to talk to you. They take my call. Luke flew out yesterday to a company in Memphis, Tennessee, number 1 call booking with my CSR manager. I've already been there. Like, I fly around the country, find the best. If you want to know, I take my advice from a guy with a fucking 6% body fat. I don't talk to a fat trainer if I want to get in shape. Like, I look at the people that are doing it, that are walking the walk, and I'm the first one to be the dumbest guy in the room and ask for help. And it's all around. There's so many clues. There's so many answers. People go, where do you find great people? I find a busboy at Steak 44 who's the best busboy I could ever find. And I recruit him till he's either going to say, stop calling me, or fine, I'll do a ride along and I'll learn more about your business. And I've got a lot of tenacity. I'm just like follow-up king.
And that's powerful, because especially people that are just starting out, now you're taking it to the next level. You guys are flying out and doing all that. But somebody just starting out, it's like, that's free to get online, search people out. Like, that's just your time. That makes
Well, a lot
it
of
easy.
people don't want to ask, and they go to the wrong people. They go to the Facebook guy driving a Lamborghini, 23 years old, who's living with his mom. He rented the car for a day, selling a course. I go in and I look at their place and I look at their people, and success leaves clues. Yeah. And I go, this is somebody I take advice from. I validate. I don't just go, oh, this guy wrote a book and has a podcast. I go, I want to hang out with the people that have gone where I want to go. Because, I always say this, millionaires have great habits. They do great things. They're great parents. Billionaires, they know who to call when. They know exactly how to set things up and get their answers. They don't outwork people. How many people do you know that say I work harder than anybody? I out-delegate your ass all day, so I could have 1,000 people. If you work 24 hours in a day and didn't sleep, and I had 10 people that work 12 hours, I am still literally like 5Xing your capability.
I had to read the comment section on that the other day when you said that, because you had so many people pissed off in the comments. Billionaires ice bath too. What are you talking about? That was funny.
That pisses a lot of people off.
Oh, for sure. And I know you do it intentionally.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, throughout this whole journey before, and you sold what, 2 years ago, 18 months ago?
End of 2022, yeah.
So
About a year now.
what was the biggest mistake that you think that you made before you guys had exited that got you closer to that exit? And what was that exit?
The biggest mistake?
What was the biggest mistake that, you know, was a blessing and it ended up getting you closer to that goal that you had to exit with Cortec?
Well, I don't know. I can't think of. The one thing I did was we were at like $12 million of E, and I formed this EIP, which is the equity incentive, and I gave away a lot, 20% of the company, and I put a low valuation of $50 million on there, which barely passes the tax like audit because we were worth a lot more than that. But I felt like indebted because I started this a little late because I didn't know what it was, and I formed a board, and I didn't know how to run a formal board meeting, and we sucked. And Tom Howard, one of the close friends of mine, said, never sell this business. It's a cash cow. And this is in COVID. And all of a sudden, nail salons and movie theaters and bowling alleys and restaurants and hotels are all shutting down. And we were really worried. Adam made the comment, you might have to go run jobs again if everybody. And I was like, dude, whatever it takes. And all of a sudden, the government said essential workers.
He said you might have to go run jobs again.
It was a
2020.
joke around the whole.
Right.
It was like, if everybody can't work, because I'm like, I'll go head on head with COVID. Like if someone has COVID, I just decided right away. We didn't know how deadly. We didn't know if it was super deadly or not in the beginning, and there was no such thing as the PPP money back when we first heard about it. And I go, but here's the best thing that ever happened is the PPP 1.8 million, and I went all in. And Mike Bailey in Milwaukee, one of my market managers, goes, "Can I do a TV commercial?" And I'm like, "Let's run it." This is during the beginning of COVID. Well, here's what I didn't know, is it was 10 times the viewership and it was a 1/10 of the cost. So we got 100x return. Boom.
A commercial as opposed to
The TV, everybody's at home.
Yeah.
right.
As opposed to billboards or Valpak or PPC or whatever it could be. Everyone's at their house chilling. So the TV, everybody saw it. By the way, no one was buying TV, so they were like discount, like really, really cheap TV they were running. Like no one knew, and no one knew if they were going to be able to run jobs in the government lockdowns or whatever. And I'm like, let's go all in on, let's double down. We're putting it all in. The 1.8 million I put all into market, and we had more jobs than we could ever imagine. And I'm like, we got to hire. We were hiring 50 guys a month and putting them through training, and not all of them were great. We were just like, if you could freaking fog a mirror, you're hired. And Tom said, never sell this business. And Tom calls me up and he goes, dude, he goes, in the IPO market, it just cut in half. They were getting 30x valuations on service title. Well, then it came down to like, on a good day, 10. He's like, you'll never see valuations reach north of 20x on EBITDA. He goes, so he flew out to town. We went to Oregano's, the Italian spot. And he goes, have you ever seen The Big Short? I'm like, yeah, that real estate movie, I think you see it. He goes, let's go back. And I was living at the apartments where all my techs stayed. I lived there for 4 years, and it was a small apartment. And I own houses still, but I just wanted to be closer to my techs, closer to work. And so we watched The Big Short. We started whiteboarding. I called Dan, who's the president of the company. Let's sell this thing. And it was game time. We got out of financials. We did our own quality of earnings. We did all this stuff. And because everybody was incentivized to grow valuation because they had a stake in the outcome, the what's in it for me, they all were. I mean, we had a meeting every week about what we need to do to get the company ready, how we could grow EBITDA, what we can do. And we went from like 12.5 million in 19 months to 27.5 million. And that was just a lot of little things, a lot of little corrections, a lot of focus. And, we set a record for the multiple. I gave away about 100 million. I ended up throwing over 200 million in my account, rolled half back into the company. And I wanted to roll 60%, but the PE company we loved, who we did business with, which was Cortec, said you could own 50%. I let a few guys roll. And now I'm like 47.5%. And we'll get this thing 4x is minimum of where I want to get it, which makes that over 200 million into 800 million.
So you spent $100 million on bonusing your most loyal people.
Yeah, 20 people, 23 people.
Don't you see that as a massive risk, or why would you do something like that?
Well, they earned it because it wasn't like I just started bonusing people.
They earned $100 million, or?
Well, so certain guys got 15 million. Like, to get these people on board, I have to have a vesting equity incentive program.
But they would have been happy with 1 or 2 million. I'm just curious why you.
Well, I
picked
think
that
I
100
overdid
million.
it. But what happened was I didn't know we were going to run this company 2.5 times in 19 months. But regardless, hindsight, I would have done the exact same thing because I've done the math 3 ways from Sunday.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning massively by doing it. And then these people are like buying houses, they're taking care of their kids, they're setting up like all these things, they're buying their dream cars, they're going on vacations. And I thought, man, I could have made a lot of money, not as much as I made by doing this. And I could have been lonely at the top of the mountain, popping my own champagne bottle and being like, hey guys, thank you. But now I have like people that are like, they're soldiers, they're ride or dies. Like if I ever need anything, I'm like the Godfather. I'm like, I told you I was gonna call you. There will be a time.
That is so how did you calculate your risks, like between the shifts and the changes? I mean, garage doors, again, like I said before, like that's an interesting world to be in that I don't know.
I could do
a whole
this
heck
in
of a
any
lot
business
about.
now. Any business.
Yeah, you call it the Tommy touch, right?
Well, the minus
Actually,
is the Tommy touch.
about the Tommy touch. Sorry to interrupt you, but you talked about KPIs and you said there's certain metrics
Four.
that you measure. Okay, so for anybody that's watching right now, like we're not talking about a couple $100,000 a year, a couple $1 million a year, $50 million a year business. We're talking about $1 billion business, and these are the principles that you say that you stick to and you'll never let go of. What are those things as far as the KPIs and the principles?
Well, I'll give you the 4 KPIs then.
Okay.
And I could fix any company on these. This is how I buy companies. This is how I fix companies. This is how I budget our revenue. Is you got to look at how many leads can I get? And so you got to understand what's your booking rate. And that could be through a form fill or a phone call. And then you look at when you knock on the door, what's your conversion rate to earn that customer's business? Then you look at your average ticket or opportunity job average. Then you look at your cost per lead. With that formula, so you take, if I want to do $100 million, I divide $100 million by my booking rate. Say it's 80%, 0.8. Then I divide that by my conversion rate. Call that 0.8, 80%. Then I divide that by my average ticket, and then I multiply that by my cost per lead, and that gives me my marketing. Now, if I massage these numbers differently, I could get my marketing costs way down. So, but those are the KPIs that I look at. Okay, I don't care if you're e-commerce. I don't care what you're doing. I look at, okay, once I know this number, I could always pour more fuel on the fire to get to 200, 300, 400 million. I just got to figure out different lead sources. And it gets a little more complicated because service versus sales and depending on the lead source and attribution models. But that's like the core principles. And then the thing is I used to have to start from the bottom up. First thing you hire is the thing you hate the most. You don't hire leaders, you hire an executive assistant. And then you hire the first thing you can afford, which is a technician. And you're wearing all these hats on the org chart. Now I could hire the leadership, get the right people on the bus, build a plan. And when I learned with private equity what they do, they find the missing 2 or 3 people. They get those people on and the business goes. The one thing about private equity is when you lose the founder, you lose the glue. And now they really like companies that are fully integrated when you buy other companies, which is an M&A strategy. They like companies that know how to greenfield plus organic growth. They want to keep the leader, the founder on board because unless it's an idiot, because some of the idiots take all this money and they give me a lot of money. What if I was in Bermuda half the time? What if I was all the fire burned out? Yeah. Then you got to, and this happens a lot with private equity. Like people say they're all in, then they stop showing up to meetings and the leader's like, he's somewhere on his Ferrari somewhere. He got enough. I don't know, because I love the game so much. Tiger Woods loves golf. You know, Kobe loved basketball. I love business. I love it. It's my game. It's my passion. My mom told me when he wins enough, I'm like, does Tiger Woods stop golfing when he wins a major?
Yeah, he's
I'm
a
like,
billion. He's literally a billionaire.
Yeah, he enjoys what he does. And for me, I'm just going to work a little bit less. I plan on eventually in the next 3 years taking off Mondays, being able to work more on a distant. But the team gets so much stronger to where my only thing I need to maintain is the vision. I'm the growth. The 2 questions you got to ask yourself for most business owners: will the company, number 1, will it run without you for a month? Number 2, and this is the tough one, will it grow without you? If the company won't continue to flow well without you, that's one thing. But the second question is the harder one. Like, will it grow at the same pace without you? And if not, then you didn't do a great job of building the leadership. But usually the entrepreneur, the guy willing to take the risk, the guy willing to put it all out there several times in a row, is the one that knows how to grow the fastest, but they also make the largest mistakes. So what I've learned from private equity is we're going to try this in 1 market before we try it in 40. We're going to prove out this thing, because I used to just go off a whim and say, okay, well, here's what we're doing. And now it's very, very small mistakes. And then we prove it out, we work out the kinks, and then we go to 10 market. And then we scale it out. And we're talking, listen, we're thinking about bringing on some new things. And there's no reason I can't build this company with my team, and my team is the key word, to 500 million of EBITDA. And by the way, in a public traded company, we only have Terminex to go off of, but it goes public, it's a 30x. That's a $15 billion company. Then, like, for me, I don't just dream up 15 billion. I know exactly what I need to do to get to 500 million. I've had to do all the math, like the KPIs I told you. Like, I had to figure out how to get there. What are my average ticket? How many calls do I need? What markets do I need to be in? What the density of those markets need to be in? How would I hire? What is the technology we're going to use? But there's a clear path to get there. It's not like a pipe dream. So many people say, I want to do what you did. I want to hit 100 million I want to get past 100 million of revenue. My question is why? And they go, because you prove it is possible. What I've learned is sell your business as quick as possible. Figure out your number. If it's 10 million, get your 10 million under your belt. Start living your best life. Start going on those vacations. Start driving first class or flying first class. Now you've got this war chest of money. Opportunities find you. Everybody's like, I'm like, so you're going to wait what? Who wants to sell in 10 years or less? Like a third of the hands go up. I'm like, so your whole family's going to watch you work nights, weekends, never really be at a basketball game for your kids because your head is looking at your cell phone, worrying about shit. No way to raise them the right way. Like, you can't afford the certain things because, like, the big payday is when that company sells and then opportunities find you. So if I get an investment, I want 5 years or less, typically 3 years, and I can do all the work that needs to happen. And that's when you get the biggest growth spurts. And then you can go do it again and again and again because all I do is turn some knobs, hire a few leaders in there, fix their marketing. All of a sudden, we 10x the business, and I'm buying it at a cheaper valuation plus getting the arbitrage. And this is what's freaking crazy. And I'm like, okay, that's a $50 million deal. That'll pay $75 million. That'll pay $100 million. But the deal is A1. Let's say I get diluted down to 15% and get this $15 billion valuation. That's $2.25 billion. It's not a bad number.
No.
You said,
I think
you said last month or last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago. You were like, we can edit this out if you don't want it to be shared. But you said pretty close to a billionaire. My net worth, my valuation.
Well, at the business where we're at today, anything could happen. So this is on paper. But ultimately, if the company hits $70 million of EBITDA, and we'll just throw, I don't care what you throw on it, throw a 20x, throw a 15x, whatever. If it is a 15x on 70, that's a little over $1 billion. Half of that's mine, plus the money I have, plus all the other investments I've made. So if you get a 20x on 70 billion, that's 1.4 billion, right? So half of that is mine. So that's 700 million. Remember what I got in the first deal. Remember, the S&P, since I've invested, is 37% up. So the big chunk of money I took out and invested it is up 37% in less than 18 months.
Let's say you got your 100 million back.
Yeah, it's a good deal. Like, I get excited when I look at my account, and it's just been the best run there's been in like decades.
Yeah.
So give me some free game really quick. If I'm a sales org leader, I'm an owner of a sales org, regardless of the industry, and you've got a good model, you got a good concept, but you're just not breaking through. What would you say? What's your one piece of advice that person needs to focus on? And kind of what I'm implying here is you talk a lot about the risk and the investment versus a lot of people want to save and conserve. What's your strategy there?
Well, let me just say this. Everybody says, how do I get more leads and train better salespeople? Here's the real deal. If you started focusing on everything in your heart and soul to get the right person, who, not how, you get the right person, because we all take our team and we're like, this guy's okay, we'll get this guy better. If you found that right person, everything would change.
Clip that.
You find the one leader, and it goes from zero to hero. When I got the one top sales guy that was better than me, I remember when I got this guy that was better than me, and no one was better than me for years and years and years. And all of a sudden he goes, we go to this garage, and I'm like, this is before we had a formal price book. And we had prices, but he started charging labor on everything he sold. And then this rail, I used to bend the rails back and make it okay. He's like, no, I'm going to sell him a new rail. And then he sold a torsion tube. And I'm like, I used to sit there and file for an hour. We walk out and I go, holy shit. And he got a 5-star review and everything changed. And I used him to model the whole sales process going forward. He's still with me. This guy is an animal. And he's going to make 280 grand this year, or close to 300. And the thing is like, when I wrote the book, Elevate, I said, build a dream where everybody wins. The dream's so big that everybody else's dream fits inside. So I need my vendors to win. I need my clients to win. I need to win, and I need my coworkers to win. And what I figured out is if you start with their dream, and you got to peel this onion back, you start with their goals. Where do you want to take your dad this year on a fishing trip? Where do you want to, what's the perfect house for you and your wife? How many houses do you want? You get them to dream bigger. And then you just literally reverse engineer their goals to, like, if you get this average ticket, this conversion rate, this many reviews, and you build a scorecard, I literally did an orientation yesterday, and these guys were screaming, clapping, because I was like, listen, losers focus on winners. Winners focus on winning. And I'm like, guys, you've got every excuse in the world. You think you're in a bad area. You think God's not giving you the gifts you need. You think, poor me, it's easy for you to say, and one day I'm going to go on a diet. One day I'm going to start trying. One day. Why not? It's today, day one. Why can't it be day one? Like, now's your chance. And if you're a person that has excuses, you're not going to last here long. I will help you figure out a way to win and get all your dreams. But you got to give me everything you got to decide you're not a victim. And the difference is when you find the right people and you can motivate the right people. I was with Nick Saban, one of the best college coaches of all time.
Absolutely.
What's more important, motivation and will, like your mindset, or talent? He said both. They're equally as important. I can't take somebody with a small body like Rudy and put them on the field. Like,
Right.
they need to have athletic ability. They need to be able to run fast. They need to be able to catch the ball with one hand if they're a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But the motivation is something that we can help instill in people. He goes, nobody knows this. I'm not as great a coach as I am a recruiter. And that's the key. You recruit the talent and then you motivate them. So many people, they recruit poor people and it's harder to motivate. And you might get the wrong person, but you might get the best talent, but not know how to motivate. And it's like you need both. And so I tell a sales leader, listen, you haven't created a process because you got guys doing it all different ways. You have no checks and balances. You have no systems in place.
Do you allow leaders in your business that don't lead from the front?
Well, there's different departments, right? Like, if you think about your financial department.
In sales.
So
I'm sure people watch you on your podcast that are in finance and things like that, but I think a lot of the people that watch this podcast are in sales directly. And so I would say one of the things that I've recently and over the last couple of years, I've tried to duplicate myself and get out of the field and give myself the illusion that I'm better than that and that I've replaced myself. But what I've realized recently is that getting back into the field, that's the most powerful thing. That's my superpower. That's the one way that I can motivate and raise the other ship. So,
well, the problem I'd say is this. People say, are you the best salesman in the company? And I'm like, well, I sold your ass, didn't I? And number two is I'm like, I might not sell as high as the top guy in the company, but when I'm in that house, I'm not getting just one 5-star review on Google. I'm getting a 5-star review on Yelp. I'm getting a 5-star review on Nextdoor. I'm getting a comment. I'm getting a video testimonial. I'm getting a yard site. I'm getting the HOA president's name and phone number, and I'm getting the 2 neighbors' names. So the deal is, over the first 6 months, I will by far earn the most money. I will by far grow the company the fastest, and I will by far earn, like, there's no chance because, like, I'm not lazy. And I'm going to follow this system every single time. I'm offering coffee to every customer. Hey, listen, let me just tell you guys one other important thing in sales. Number one, they need to like you, right? We know they need to like and trust you. Blah, blah, blah. We've heard that. Number two is they got to like the company. This is where most people fail. I love working for this company, and here's why. But here's the third thing that I figured out that no one talks about is the client needs to feel liked. You need to laugh at their jokes. You need to talk about their family. You need to find common interest, and you need to show them. So if you were going to call your buddy today and just call it an acquaintance, and he answered the phone and you were like, hey, bro, what's up? We were like, oh my gosh, dude, it's so good to talk to you. Like, if you really want him to feel like he is appreciated and you're his friend. So if you were talking to a customer, you're like, listen, Mr. Jones, I'm so excited that I get to serve you today. Yeah. I'm stopping off at Starbucks, and then you laugh at their jokes. So 3 things, remember this. They like you and trust you. They think you're sharp. Number 2 is they know you love the company, and that's why you work there, because you stand behind this company. And number 3 is you make them feel liked. You do those 3 things, you're winning in a big freaking way. And people miss out on the number 2 and number 3. Some people go, yeah, it's a pretty cool company. That's why I work here. If you say, listen, Mr. Jones, I want to tell you why I work here. I could work anywhere on the planet with garage doors. I'm a certified badass. But the reason I chose A1 Garage Door Service, A1 from day one, is they've been here through good and bad times. When we went through COVID, they contacted us every day. They've helped out our family in a bigger way than I could ever imagine. And I'll tell you this, I trust them with myself and my family, and you should trust them too. And I want to show you that guy on the side of the truck, he actually cares. And if you ever have a problem, we put our clients that we've already worked with in front of any new client, and we will make it right. We don't always do the perfect job, but we always make it right. Mistakes happen. And I'll tell you another thing is I literally will work for this company for the rest of my life. They treat me right. That is the difference. When you get another guy out there being like, yeah, it's a garage door company. It changes do you know how many times a guy calls me up and he goes, we're $2,000 more than the competitor, but they went with us?
Yeah, it's better training. Better leadership.
Well, the training is a big piece of it, but I can't train charisma. I can't train eye contact. Like, it's hard for me to take a broken person that doesn't believe in themselves, that feels like they're ugly, that literally never smiles, that has a hard time and stutters like crazy, and say, hey, I need you to have more confidence. But what I could do is help them get their teeth fixed so they smile again. What I could do, I look for people's eye contact. I look for their handshake. I look for them to tell a funny story. And I'm like, man, I'd buy from this guy. So many times we hire somebody, we're like, with a year's worth of training, we can make them more confident. I'm not Captain Fix-A-Ho. Like, that's for Starbucks. I find confident people, and I just give them the words to say and how to do it. And by the way, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but I love sales. You think Brad Pitt or Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise, they get the script, and they're like, oh, make it your own, make it your own. No, they need to study the lines and say them verbatim. And they need to get good at it and show emotion. And they need to feel like they're that character. And we all have an alter ego. Do not learn your own way. Do not make it your own. You can make it your own when you're talking about the Harley. But you're going to follow this exactly. Anybody, losers say make it your own. Oh, make it your own. Because if you ever play telephone and you tell 100 people, it's a whole different thing. So never say make it your own. Say repeat after me. And until you can do this perfectly in front of me, verbatim, you're not going to practice on a client. Anyways.
No, man, I love it. And I think those standards, like, a lot of people are losing that in the sales industry because, I mean, just because of how easy it is to create a business and make a couple dollars here and make a couple dollars there by not actually being a good leader. And I think it's watering down the value of a lot of these sales companies, but that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, you've been able to create and foster this really, really ultra competitive sales environment for your guys when there's opportunity here, opportunity there. Obviously, you got social media. There's all this stuff flashing. Clearly, you're doing something that's bigger than a lot. But internally, how do you keep these guys motivated to continue to compete on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think competition is something where I've always applied everything I do to sports. And I played every single sport, man. I was in gymnastics. I mean, I played every game, baseball, basketball, football, soccer. I mean, I played a lot of sports, and I want to know how to win the game. And what I've taught everybody in the company is, just because you're winning doesn't mean he's losing. Like, if we all help each other and we confide in each other, what that means is I'm putting 10% of revenue back into marketing, which means better leads. When I can do TV, radio, billboards, when you see your brother falling down a little bit, if you help pick him up, it's good for you and your family. And here's why. Because I'm putting that money back into branding, which means we're going to get more affluent clients calling up. So at the end of the day, and I'll tell you this, we're not the most expensive company. We've got options. We don't ever, ever, ever give one price because that's an ultimatum. Say yes or no. I say we got the economical, which we could beat any companies if you're looking for price, but if you're looking for value, let's do something. You told me your son sleeps upstairs, little Johnny. I can make this store so quiet that he doesn't wake up every time mom and dad comes home late. So we've got 5 options for everything. We don't just give ultimatums. And I think that's, like, we train on this stuff over and over and over, and my guys want to share now. And a few of the guys came in, prima donnas, didn't want to share. They were like, if he'll get all the good jobs, blah, 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 blah. We've torn down those walls, and that's why I love this company so much. And I couldn't tell you there's one thing that happened, but we share all the numbers of everybody every single week, not to mention they got a scorecard. They could log in and see the number one guy at a KPI. Like, they can see the guy that doesn't have any warranty calls. They can see who gets the most 5-star reviews, who has the highest average ticket, who has the highest service to sales. And now, with our technology, they can listen to every call when they're in the home. So they can actually listen to what they're doing to make it happen.
The Rilla
voice. Yeah. And that's what's freaking crazy about it. And we built our own scorecard, and everybody's like, how do you build a scorecard? I was like, my scorecard wouldn't work for you. It took a lot of programming. It took extracting out a service. They got an app. They open it up on their phone. He's number one. Go to this other app, open up, listen to his calls, replicate that. And then they call these guys up and ask them, hey, dude, that was awesome. How do you do that? How do you get yourself ready? And they share because just because he's really good with his clients, you don't lose any money. Like, that's what the biggest thing is. Like, they're not going to get as many good opportunities. What is not a good opportunity? They live in the United States of America. My top guy I was talking about, I've got several top guys that beat Robin. Like, literally, they go back and forth. He grew up in a bomb shelter in Iraq. He came to the United States of America and said, you guys are Americans. I don't care if you had the money. Your garage door broke. You live in a huge freaking house in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's relentless. He doesn't say that, but in his mind, he's going, oh, you poor thing. Your garage door broke and you own a freaking Mercedes. Oh, you didn't expect, you don't have the money. No, I grew up in a bomb shelter, was dodging bullets. So I'm going to come at you with everything. And he looks you directly into your freaking soul. One day he came into my office and he goes, boss, I need something. And I'm like, oh, what's up? He's like, I need to borrow some money, but you don't have to give it to me. Don't feel obligated. And I'm like, how much? He's like, I need 10,000. Could have came in with 1,000. And he's looking right into my soul. Didn't break, like, and I'm like, all right. And pulled out my checkbook. I gave it to him. And I knew he was good for it. And he paid me right back. But I mean, the way he talks to you, he looks you, he does not blink. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't stutter. He says what's up, and he assumes the sale.
You don't get what you don't ask for, man.
Yeah.
You got to ask.
Yeah. You kind of briefly mentioned branding back there. I don't know exactly what it's been, but past couple years maybe or less, you've really gone in. How is that, or do you think that's helped you attract new talent or just grow your business in any way?
It's the most important thing I've ever done. Yeah. And I listened to Grant Cardone about 6 or 7 years ago. He goes, I invest in two things and I'll spend an ungodly amount of real estate and my personal brand. No one can take that away from you. Yes, you could license out your brand in an industry or your likeness. But the fact is, people take my phone calls. Out of the 40 guys that were in our orientation yesterday, half of them listened to my podcast and came because of me. They wanted to be accountable. They wanted to make more money. They bought into my dream and I bought into their dreams. And we were out with my whole marketing division yesterday at Topgolf last night. And I'm like, we will 20X my personal brand. And when I make a post, we will have people hungry and they'll all make $200,000 a year working for us. And guess what else I do? I give my top guys that make Pinnacle equity in the company. So some of these guys are going to walk away with $500,000 to $1 million, which is life-changing because it comes in a chunk of money that no one else is offering. And people are like, why would you do that? I was like, because number one, my top guys leave. They're going to build another garage door company. They know my whole playbook. Number two is I actually do want their dreams to come true. Number three is one guy sees them going on Pinnacle and earning equity and their wives. What do you think their wives are saying? Go out there and work, asshole. Let's make more money. You can pick up a Saturday. Hey, I'm taking a little bit of sacrifice to work my butt off. And your wife's behind it. Your kids are saying, Daddy, go get him today because you're going to change our future. It changes everything. There's like 20 bullets with this one. It's killing like so many birds with one stone. Yeah. And people are like, why would I give those? Like, why would I give them? And if you make a mistake and you're just throwing out equity like crazy, you'll lose everything. So I'm not saying go form an equity incentive program and start dishing it out to everybody because equity is one thing that you got to really know what you're doing. And it's got to be a really, really thought out. You got to have the right lawyers and you got to do the math. And most people don't even know what their numbers are out of their CRM. So I'd say, unless you're a certain size and you understand what this really means, like get your shit together.
What's your lenience on that? Like how long do you go when a guy says, you know, he comes to a Monday meeting and then he comes to another Monday meeting and then he comes to another Monday meeting and he doesn't have his numbers, Like how do you process that and what type of leash do you give him?
Well, our guys all know their numbers. The problem is there's certain guys in the company. Your
guys probably know your numbers because there was probably that one guy that didn't know his numbers, right?
No, all the guys, they're automatically calculated.
Okay.
Like all the numbers. The difference what I do is let's say you bring your numbers in and you're number 5 out of 10. I'll bring up the other 2 guys' numbers because we post them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there. And I'll say, what would it take you to get to their numbers? And you're like, you give me 3 excuses. And I call them excuses, but you say, listen, I'm not getting the good jobs, not the right area. So I would say, listen, if I solve these 3 things, I want to make a little agreement right here that I'm going to sign off on. I'm going to put the date and I'm going to put the 3 statements. I will get you jobs in this area that are sprinkled. I will make sure that you get the nighttime shifts on Thursday. I will make sure through the 3 things. Now, listen, I signed the agreement. When I solve these 3 things, I need to make an agreement underneath here because there's going to be no more excuses. You're telling me that this is what's holding you back. Now I created the biggest accountability these people have ever heard. Now I'm going, okay, you will be at these numbers. And listen, here's the thing. You might not be at these numbers, but you're going to definitely improve. Yeah. Like I'm not going to fire you. I had to figure out what to drive you forward. I got to figure out if your why was big enough because people say it's my kids and my wife. Bullshit. Show me your credit card bills and show me your calendar. That's not a priority. You say it is. Yes, you die for them, but they're not what's on your mind all the time. So I need to figure out what your bigger why is. What is it? Recognition? How do you like to be acknowledged? Was it going on vacation? Is it a big hug? Is it to tell you did great? Is it to pull you in and just like continue to motivate you and call you? Is it to have a great friend? Because if I could figure out what motivates that person, and then that's what I'm going to hit. Certain people, the worst answer you give me is, as long as I got a roof over my head and hot food at the dinner table, I'm good.
You know what's so funny is every sales organization asks people, like, what's your why? And the leader will go around, like, what's your why? My family. Good. That's important to have. And then they move right along. Have
Well,
you
the
noticed
why
that?
the why is an onion. You got to peel it back,
Right.
and you got to ask, listen, what does your house look like that you want? And you got to start manifesting it. You got to have a clear vision. You got to have a vision board. You got to ask people, like, seriously, how many bathrooms does it have? What street is it on?
But you're not in all these locations. Like, you have how many
Well, I
offices?
got to train. We got a lot of locations, but I got to teach the leaders how to do this. And here's one thing that was really impactful. Like 2 weeks ago, I asked one of my top managers. He was at my house, and he goes, "You know what you need to do? You need to treat people like adults and with respect, and they'll treat you back. Because a lot of managers treat people like babies,
Oof.
and they talk down to them, and they say." Like little toddlers, they're like, you guys aren't doing your jobs right. And all they do is ridicule in public. Those are for one-on-ones. And the first thing you start off with is what's going on with you? How's it going? And you find out, what did you do well this week? And they're presenting to you. And what's something you struggled with this week? And then you go over their numbers and you say, listen, remind me, you do want this house. You manifested this house. That's clear in their mind. You wanted this car. You wanted this vacation with your family. Would it be okay if I helped you get there quicker? And then you assign them certain tasks and certain ride-alongs and to do these things. And you say, listen, I'm going to help you every way I can, but I can't help you unless you're going to help yourself. I look at you and you don't even look like you're happy about yourself. You said you were going to start a diet 3 months ago. You're obviously in the worst mood ever because you're killing 20 Red Bulls a day. You eat McDonald's every day. Your head's not clear and you want to get better, but you don't want to help yourself. So I'm only able to help you as much as you'll help yourself. So here's the thing. First, we're going to set a goal for you to get in the right mindset, which is getting in shape, which is getting a clear head, which is getting the right sleep. And if you can't get there, those are things you can do. You can get up out of bed. You could say no more fries. You could say, listen, I'm going to have a protein shake. If you can't help yourself there, then I don't know what to do. Because maybe I don't think you want to be helped, and I can't help lost causes.
Speaking of your health, I think you're working with Sean Crane right now. How do you think that helps you be a better CEO?
Well, number one, people see me, and I'm like, a lot of times what you become as the founder or the CEO or the president or the leader is they kind of, especially in the blue collar industry, they kind of look at me like a dad figure. And everybody wants to be a little bit like dad. And they're like, man, he's taking care of himself. His energy's through the roof. He's smiling more. He looks healthy. He's walking with a little more pep in his step, more swagger. So I think that showing people that I'm going to lead by example, I'm not just going to preach. I'm going to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And when people see that, they're like, man, I want what you have. If you could do it, I could do it. You're busier than I am. You're just doing hard things. And you're making little sacrifices. Like, I bust my ass for an hour to lose 500 calories on like a brisk walk of 3.9. I could take some pistachios, 2 servings of 400 calories each. That's 800 calories. So I look at every freaking package and I'm like, I'm not going to ruin that hour. So you put in the hard work and you actually do the work. You're like, it's a little bit of sacrifice, but it's really not, because after a while, your body doesn't even want that stuff. And people see this. Discipline beats motivation every day of the week. Like a little bit of discipline. Like people say, do something hard each day and all these motivators and influencers. But I'm like, dude, your DNA as human beings, our natural dopamine release happens from doing hard things. The natural dopamine, not the pills, not the weed, not all the booze. The natural dopamine that gives you this euphoria happens when you do hard things. And people say start out with a cold plunge. You could start out just sprinting. 2% of people will sprint as a full-on sprint after the age of 30. Like, think about that. Because they don't do hard things. They want to live in this comfort. They don't want to go. They don't want risk. They just want to sit there and be part of the game. One day you wake up, you're 40. The next day you're 50. The next day you're 70. And you're like, this is it. But all they needed to do was take a leap of faith, take a chance, go at it. And that's when I tell them, like, I'm the one. I changed everything. What's his name? Andy. There's this thing called The One. And I love this guy. Not for sale. What's
Ed Milet?
Ed Milet. Yeah. So Ed Milet's like, he's on stage and he goes, I'm the one that took all the risk. My family doesn't think like they used to think. We are positive now. Our whole lineage has changed. It changed with me. I did everything. I'm the one. And I play that with everybody. And I go, are you the one? Does it stop with you? Does the drinking stop? Does the cheating stop? Does the bullshit getting fat because you don't take sacrifices stop? Are you okay being okay? Are you okay following in the footsteps of all the mistakes? Generation after generation, does it stop today? And that's how I was in my orientation yesterday. I just get excited.
Tommy, you got me all messed up, dude.
I
My
felt it.
next question is, what's your biggest advice for young entrepreneurs? And I think you just
Someday.
nailed that one.
Well, young entrepreneurs, I believe that Like literally, I think we take opportunities that kind of present themselves. You know, when I was a kid, I go through the newspaper of who's hiring. What I would tell people now is don't find out who's hiring. Find out where you want to work and go get the job. The difference is you're hiring who's hiring. Just like I don't hire off the unemployment line. You want to work there. You go in there. You know how many times I wanted to work at this bar? I showed up there every week. After the 6th month, they go, we got a spot, you're hired. Because I was like, I was relentless.
Persistent, yeah.
And why would anybody go work for somebody that's hiring? I want somewhere like, dude, this is where I want to work. This is where I want to get mentored. This is who I want to be around. This is the rest of my life. This is how I'm going to build. When I'm young, this is going to set the foundation of success. So my best advice is don't take a job. Go find a career and go pick it and make yourself to where you get that job and you show up and you're dressed up and you're smiling and your shirt's tucked in and you show up every week till they give you a shot because they will.
They will. That one's powerful.
But Tommy, I don't know how and I don't know where and it's too hard.
Yeah, well, certain soft skills too is like what I would tell you is go figure out how to take some leaderships, like do things you don't like to do. Like if you hate getting on stage, go force yourself, join a Toastmasters, go to B&I meeting, like figure out a way to make yourself uncomfortable because these soft skills of telling stories and improv classes, like a little comedy.
Yeah.
Like you get comfortable doing that, you could talk, just go to a grocery store today and talk to a stranger. Practice that for a week. And when you're in a parking lot, just coming in from the gym, just talk to somebody, say, hey, listen, I see you at the gym all the time, dude. You're actually like working out really hard. Hopefully you say it to a chick. But you know, all I'm saying is make yourself uncomfortable. Work on these soft skills. Work on your eye contact. Make sure you're not stuttering because it's a skill. You can learn these things. And you learn to talk on your feet. You learn to smile more. And you learn to make eye contact. You learn to ask more questions and genuinely be interested. You do those things, you can get a job anywhere.
I want to ask you one more thing. I mean, I got a couple more things. I know time's running out. But you keep talking about leadership. I know that your company has certain processes and things in place and standards in place to duplicate your leadership. But when I look around at a lot of the sales organizations that I've worked with, like I've creating and duplicating leadership is the hardest thing in the world. And in my opinion, it's like herding cats. And so I just want you to touch a little bit more on that, on what you see happen a lot in the sales industry as far as leaders go, maybe leaders period, doesn't matter what industry it is. And how to avoid those mistakes.
A lot of people take their best of the best and they make them into leaders and they make them into trainers. And here's the problem. Some people were just meant out to be there and not lead. And that's okay. That doesn't mean usually leaders make less money than the top salesperson. And that's okay. Everybody's like, I want to be a leader. But when they start leading, they're like, get me back out in the field. Let me do what I do best. And then you try to get them to coach and they can't slow down because they're like, just be more like me. And they don't have a system. They're just charismatic. And they say, what's your secret? And they go, I don't know. I just know what to say at the right time. And they're very good at it. You can't train on that. A leader actually is a systemized process thinker. And they say, listen, there's a hierarchy. And one of the mistakes I made as an early on leader is I used to literally trump a lot of my leaders. People would come to mom, then they go to dad. And I didn't realize how much I was belittling their opinion and what they were doing. So I had, luckily, a few guys talked to me and they said, dude, I just told that guy no and you said yes. And I'm like, I need to really build these hierarchies and say, I don't make those decisions. Yeah. You go to them. Unless there's something going on with a particular leader, you always have my cell phone. Like if he is literally belittling you in front of people and like literally making you feel like shit, you go to the next level. And if it doesn't get fixed there, you go to the next level. And this is what an org chart's all the way about. Like this is what it's about. And in the military is the best form of really hierarchies. And you just don't go to the top-notch lieutenant, and I don't even know like the captain or whatever.
Colonel. But
whatever it is, you don't just jump the line. And I think running the business like that is important.
I got a question, then I'll let you take it home. In terms of one of your growth strategies right now is acquisition. Whenever you're looking at potential companies to acquire, what are the main things you're looking for, and is culture?
Well, there's small add-ons and there's big acquisitions. Typically, the only thing I care about in an acquisition, the only thing is the lead source. Because here's all I know, is the culture is going to change when we take it over. Like, I'm looking at how many leads do they bring in, because I changed the conversion rate and the booking rate. I'm buying leads. I'm remonetizing their list. I'm going to change it into the nicest trucks. I'm going to retrain all their guys. I'm going to show them all of our systems. There's certain people not willing to make that leap, and that's okay because I'm really good at hiring. And my intention is never to lose anybody, but some people are like, I like running 8 calls a day. I'm like, well, we run 3 a day. And they're like, I don't like to sell stuff. And I'm like, well, sales is part of life. How'd you meet your wife? I don't like to sell. I sell things only people need. I go, I don't sell things anybody needs. I sell things people want. Nobody needs a garage door opener with a cell phone app on it. I like to give options though. I'm like, no one needs a brand new car. Are you mad when the Ferrari dealership sells Ferraris? Oh, well, they didn't need a Ferrari. They could have bought a dune buggy. Yeah, I know. But my clients, they like to have their options and buy nice shit because they wanted it, not because they needed it. So I like to talk to the companies. Yes, we talk about leadership, where they're going to fit into the company, and we make that. But really what I'm doing is I'm buying lead sources. I hope everybody makes it on. I hope they live a better life. I've never bought a company that each person that worked there didn't make way more money with better benefits, with a new truck, with tools. People are like, they come here, they're like, we didn't know there was a better way. Like, this is crazy. They look at our training center, the way we respect them, the way that I show up. People are like, why do you even come into work? We didn't even meet. We barely saw the last owner 3 times a year.
I mean, let's be real. Nobody's going to come into work after they clear 300 million. Not many people have a reason to do it.
Well,
right off
listen,
into the sunset, they're going to call it good.
And by the way, I used to say this is my baby, and it is my baby. But guess what? Now it's an asset. And your number one goal of a business is to build that asset. You don't divest out of the business. So many owners, they're buying a Ferrari, they're buying a second house. What if they reinvested into their asset and 3x their asset? Then they could buy 5 Ferraris. It's called delayed gratification. And few people have this. They like to live and they go, we deserve it. We deserve the Harley. We deserve doing this. We deserve this. But their number one thing they're making the money from, they divest out of. And that's dumb. And I'm like, you guys need to learn a little bit of discipline and delayed gratification, because you don't deserve shit until you reinvest in the baby that's making you all the money.
So you told me the other day, and I'll kind of wrap this one up, but you told me the other day that after you sold your company or half your company, you said you spent like a certain dollar amount on purchasing other companies. And I think it's pretty substantial. Would you mind sharing what it was and kind of what your strategy was there?
Well, listen, I can't own more than 25% of a company. I can't be on any other boards. My job is in my company.
Is that how it works? When you sell your company to a PE,
Well,
you can't own more than 25%?
Well, there's different negotiations and strategies, but listen, I invested great things. I built a team. It's called Tommy Mello Ventures. And these guys are really helping me a lot with A1. But what I could do is, I'm not a consultant or anything. I get behind great businesses. I see an opportunity where they're missing something. And I by the way, I don't have time to work a day in their business. Everybody says I want to work with Tommy. Now Tommy's going to go run my company. No. Here's the thing. I say, we're going to fix your marketing because that's my superpower. We're going to help you hire and find out the missing pieces in your org chart. We're going to get your CRM to put out good data. And then we're going to have a monthly meeting. And I'm not even involved in a lot of these meetings, but like, there's nothing I've invested in, maybe a couple of deals. But for the most part, if I can't pull $100 million out of it in 3 years, then I don't want to invest in it. And the deal is I put a lot of money out there, because here's the deal. The S&P 500 does great. But where else could you buy a business at 5X, 3 times it, and then get 10X? If you 3 times it, plus you doubled because of the arbitrage, that's 6X. And you can do that in under 3 years. I mean, the math is just, Pablo Escobar knew what arbitrage was and how to buy and sell businesses. He would have never gotten the Coke business.
That's crazy, man. One of the coolest things that really inspired me about your story is, and it's, it's materialistic, but it's seeing like what you've been able to do after you were able to sell, and retiring your parents was one of them. And then you mentioned buying a house up in Idaho. Talk to me about how you're going to utilize that for your team too, and not just for your own self-interest, but when I saw it, I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, this is the biggest compound in PV, I think.
Well, the deal is, what sold our company was our training center. It's state-of-the-art. It's massive. It's like, we didn't skip a thing. My job is to raise the bar for the company. Well, that's personal branding, right? We just talked about that. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to have the nicest lazy and the best shooting range in the bowling alley. I'm going to invite...
underground, by the way.
You name somebody that I want to get, and I say, come over for a weekend, we'll do a podcast, and you guys will never even see us. You guys use this as your own place. We'll have any type of coffee. If you like martinis, we'll do espresso martinis at night. We'll give you anything and everything. But here's the thing. It's who, not how. Getting around the right people. So I said, if I built a state-of-the-art house, all automations, make it like Fantasyland, I could live in a small apartment. Here's what's crazy about me. Take all the money away, I'm back where I started. I'm not afraid of anything because, hey, the money does not define who I am. Here's one thing that had to happen. It's who I had to become to get to this point that no one can take away. It's not the money. It's not the houses. It's not the cars, because that's not satisfaction. It's who I am today. That's why I could get it all back so quick. And you see these billionaires lose everything and come right back because they learn these principles. And you really can't take away something from somebody that never had anything to begin with. You can't take away my dignity. You can't take away my pride. You can't take away of who I become. So these houses are a great way for me. I mean, I'll probably have people there to there will be a lot of deal flow. I met this doctor and he's like, every deal I've done is on my yacht. He's like, I take the people on the yacht. Like, these are all strategic, thinking 5 moves ahead. Me and Bree have 2 small dogs. We do not need a 34,000 square foot house. We don't need it. We don't
What about
need
the other 4 houses, Tommy?
Yeah, well, the other house.
No, right next to that house. I'm like, come on, bro.
Well,
that's
then I'm
crazy.
trying to buy the other neighbor's house.
He's like, oh, these are like casitas. I'm like, bro, that's a mansion. That's not a casita, bro.
The cool thing is we had my dad's 70th birthday there. We had my mom's birthday. We had Bree's niece's birthday, and all the family stayed with us. Think about how much you cannot buy these experiences. You can't buy them, and you can never put a price on them. So for me, it's not about what the house costed. It's about how much those experiences costed to be under one roof with each other for a full 3-day weekend. Like, there's no money. And it's not like, look at what I built. Look at this. I treat everybody like it's their house. I never gloat about it. I'm not like, look what we've done. You guys are fortunate to be here. I'm like, mi casa, su casa. Come on in here. Let's enjoy ourselves. If something spills, I'm not like, oh, that's a precious Persian rug. I'm like, we could buy a new one. I don't really care. And just treat people like you want to be treated.
But that's not what Instagram tells society right now. It says like the guys that are making it, they're the ones that are kind of they're the jerks, they're the assholes. They don't have time for people. And then we're taught when I first got into sales, it's like be exclusive. And I'm like, okay, but really be exclusive. Like, do things that are useful with your time, like that are important, that are making money for your team, not like telling people that you're too exclusive for them. So how do you kind of find where that line is, like between...
Well, you got to start guarding your time. There's a great book by Dan Martell. I work directly with Dan Martell. He works with 6 people directly. I've always have a mentor. You know, Michael Jordan had 4 full-time coaches other than Phil Jackson. Like, you stack the deck and buying back your time. So Dan Martell said, instead of answering everybody's questions on a cell phone, have 1 hour where you answer their questions, but they're going to do all the hard work and your assistant's going to get it all. And it's selfish the other way. So you do got to guard your time, because I want to help everybody, because people helped me when I was small. They let me in their house and they let me in their business, and they took my phone calls. So part of me is like, I'm just doing the nice thing, but not at the expense of me and Bree breaking up because I didn't spend time with her. Not for the expense of me and my dad never hang out again. Not for the expense that I don't see my niece and nephews again. So is it selfish to not answer people's calls? For the sake of my family and my relationships, yes. So to get it systematized and pay other people to help build that process is super important, because you cannot, when you get larger and there's more decisions, more tough decisions, you've got I've got an A1 family. They depend on me. If I'm out helping all these people, giving them strategies, but I also, that's what gives me energy, talking on stages and just going and doing a podcast, obviously, a little bit of energy. So don't take that away. Like I told the PE guys, don't take away my stage time. Don't take away my podcast. Don't take away these opportunities, because this is what brings me the energy and my aura and my chi, or whatever you want to call it. So I think you do help people, but you got to get more selective, and you got to build better processes to help more. Because if you just want to help 2 people at a time, that's selfish, and you should be helping.
That was awesome, man. And what you said about like not wanting to take away from your schedule. I'm sure that there's a couple people that run your executive assistants that run your schedule, and people that are asking you to come on podcasts, speak on stages. Was that kind of like your superpower, that you're like, this is what energizes me every single day? And like, how would you encourage other leaders that are in the space, like that get put into a position that might not bring the best out of them? Because I made a post the other day about, you're going to do a job one way or another, and you might as well figure out how to do something that you really, really love. And everybody talks about it. Like, you do a job you love and you never work a day in your life. But like, what's the real truth to that, between like the longevity of being in that position?
Well, I think everybody, Tiger Woods, whether he likes it or not, he still gets up and hits golf balls. And that's the best analogy I could give you. Like, certain times there's days that I'm like, dude, I do not want to get on another plane to do this. But once I'm in the moment, when Tiger Woods is on Sunday with his red shirt and contention, it's all worth it. So what I would say is, you're going to take some sacrifice, and the people that are willing to take sacrifice with the discipline enough to do it, and the willingness, saying no is a superpower, but saying no at the expense of just completely screwing everybody. Certain people are dicks and assholes about it. Like, there's a nice way to say, man, listen, I'm super busy right now. I'm taking care of my family. Like, if we could meet on this date, just have your questions ready. I'll give you 10 minutes. But here's the thing. I want to use it for content, because I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And there's a lot of people that will get something out of this. Like, you need to start being smarter about things. And I think a lot of leaders say, do what you do best. There's a lot of things I don't do that I still have to do. I'm not the best at everything, but I show up, and my number one thing is, who can I hire to take more off my, and if I keep doing this and I keep growing, I'm building a team, all of a sudden, the money, and you've heard this before, the money, you never, like, you buy the nice car, you buy the big house, and you expect this feeling of like content. I made it. I've arrived. That never happens. It just doesn't come. It's like, then you're just like, what's the next thing? So like, if you don't learn to be happy today and in the now and in the present, you never will. And a lot of that comes back to getting in shape and having a clear mind and making sure you're fueling your body. You're like really taking care of yourself, and you're getting all the right stuff done, because depression and social media and all these other things, like, when I'm happy when I look. I'm nowhere where I'm going to be by September 25th, under 10%. But yeah, I think it's important to get your body right and look in the mirror and say, I'm good. And if your teeth are messed up, then freaking buy new teeth. If you don't like something about it, then get your hair fixed. You could go to like Ukraine or wherever it is now.
That's what he just did. That's what Cody just did too. It's
Yeah.
funny. Two of the guys in here just got that done. But yeah, that's important, man. I mean, I hear you. Like, I actually got my teeth done last year. That was the biggest insecurity that I always had. And I was like, you know what, dude? If I can just stop focusing on my teeth and focus more on the people that are in front of me, then that'll probably help me a lot.
Right,
and
you can't even smile.
And it did. Like my confidence went way through the roof, and it was something that I needed for a long time. That last question I asked you, after I said it, I was kind of thinking, how can I ask that better? And what I really meant to say is, like, everybody talks about balance, right? Like, people talk about balance, I think, and they ask successful people, like, how do I find a balance in my life? Because what they want to hear, I assume, is you need to have a good time, and then you need to know when to work hard, and you need to have a switch. And I think we all know, everybody sitting here understands that, like, fuck balance, it doesn't matter. Like, if you don't have anything producing in your life, like, it doesn't matter what you really take time off of, enjoy. Obviously, family's different. But my question is, like, you know, I just read the book, What Gets You Here Doesn't Get You, or What Got You Here Doesn't Get You There. We talked about that the other day. But people get themselves into positions based on a skill set that they have, and it's not always... That's not always going to be the same position that they're going to continue to be in. So how do they check themselves on a professional level like you do and say, I could be spending more time going and meeting with people, but instead I'm choosing to go and spend time on my
Well, there's
superpower.
reflection. Literally, reflecting is one thing I've learned to do in the last few years, reflecting. And there's a good book by Dan Thurman called Off Balance on Purpose. And when you learn their seasons of life, I'm not praying 10 times a day, working out 10 times a day, there for every single person at work, calling my family twice an hour. Like, there's a balance of a season of, like, literally, I tell my guys all the time, get ahead now. Let the money work for you. Compound interest is the largest thing in the universe. Einstein said that. Like, you're going to be off balance, and that's okay. And you might not be praying all the time. You might not be able to get that 10 times a day workout. But here's the thing. There is seasons of life. And I guess what you're asking is, yes, you need to continue to grow as a person. I was watching this reel earlier about most billionaires actually read one book a week on self-help. They don't have time for fiction. They're too busy learning, and they're networking, and they're doing the right things. And it's the goal. Let me just tell you this. What does a billionaire have that my brother-in-law used to go to India, right?
You got a pen, Steve? Yeah, I'm listening.
So he'd go to India, and he told me one day there's all these kids. They're yelling out the window. They're raising their arms. I mean, this is a broke-down old Volkswagen Bug. Every kid was smiling and happy. They were living their best life. One day, this billionaire tells his son, he goes, listen, do me a favor. He goes, I want you to go down to, there's a tribe of people. And this was way back in the day. But this guy was super considered wealthy back in the day. He goes, I want you to go, never mind. What the story goes like this. Like, this kid had everything. He had the nicest everything. And he goes, so what'd you think about the tribe spending a week there? He goes, it's amazing. At night, they light a fire instead of watching TV. They have lots of dogs instead of just one dog, and the dogs roam around and have a good time. The people actually dance, and they socialize instead of social media. And the dad was, like, shocked. This kid was like, I like that life better. The money, there's people committing suicide. There's people literally, they literally miss out on the best time of their children's life, and there's divorce, and there's literally, like, so much alcohol and drugs. And so I think certain people are chasing the wrong thing. If you want to chase freedom to be able to do what you want when you want, you don't need $1 billion. You don't even need 100 million. You don't even need 10 million. Just off of $5 million, you could make $500,000 a year without touching the principal. And so I think people are really confused on what they want in life. They don't really know. They're kind of lost, and that's okay. And people are like, well, look at you, Tommy. What about you? But this is what I love. I love changing people's lives. I love dreaming big. I love watching people have their dreams win.
So you just said something funny about you read a post the other day that was talking about what billionaires do and don't do.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question because I know you're on social media like the rest of us. You see all the gurus. You see all these these people giving advice about what millionaires and billionaires do and don't do. So coming from someone that's actually net worth $1 billion, what's the biggest misconception that you see that everybody or that you see all over the place of people saying millionaires, billionaires do this, this, and that, and you're like, no, that's not true.
Well, one of the biggest things they say is you got to work harder and you do got to take sacrifice. But I think a lot of the people, it's not who you know, it's what you know. I can keep going back to that.
Appreciate the book.
And I think that if I had to tell you what I hear, there's a lot of fake wannabe billionaires. They really don't. Like, I see so many people, when you get behind my neighbor, and it works for Morgan Stanley, and he goes, Tommy, you know how many people I represent that are very wealthy? He goes, you are the realest dude I've ever met. He goes, because you actually walk the walk. He goes, these guys flaunt their money like it's freaking crazy. They might have 15 million in the bank. He's like, but they all act like they're billionaires. They tell people their net worth is so much more than it really is. And I'm like, look, at the end of the day, no one's going to consider me because of 100 million or a billion any different. I don't really care. Right. It's not like, oh my gosh, you're so much better. I don't like, there's nothing I get out of my life more than like the difference of value. But these guys, people are like, why do you do social media? Why do you sell books? Why do you still have a podcast?
That was the biggest thing. Someone was like, no one that has $1 billion company is going to be selling courses online. And I was like, just reading those comments and I was like,
well, yeah, the biggest thing for me is like literally like, I feel like I've got amazing content. I feel like I help a lot of people. And guess what I have to pay for? I have to pay for a team. Now I could use all my money I made after A1, or I could sell it at a very, very affordable price. And like, people don't understand, videographers, like I'm hiring 15 full-time people for social media. Like, do the math. That's millions of dollars a year. And why not be able to recoup that? Like, the profitability, people are like, how much? Do you think I really give it? Do you think that's a priority of like, maybe I can make a few $1,000,000 here, or if I grow A1 by $5 million a year, which we're doing way better than that, that's an extra 100 million. But this is where like people always, they share with me. This is where I get my energy from. This is where people take my phone calls now. This personal brand is why people take my phone calls. They see me, they're like, I feel like you're haunting me. And they come up to me and they say, hey, listen, dude, I just figured this out. I figured this out. I got this answer for you. Let's collaborate on this. Come out to my shop. I'll show you how we're booking 92% of our calls. People don't understand, like, there's not this hidden agenda, but if I help enough people, they help me back. And I don't give with anything in return. I'm not like, you owe me now. But what happens is, like, all the answers I've sought after came because of the personal brand. And like, yes, you think I put a book out for $20 and I'm like, thank God I sold 10 books today.
I know. I think it's funny because a lot of people are so jaded that they're like expecting that every course is a scam, because most of them are, like 99% of them are. I mean, the funny thing is like you said before, like you clearly do not have to do any of that. Like you're doing it because it's part of your why, it's part of your purpose. And so one of my last questions to you, and I've said that probably 5 times now, appreciate all the information, but Grant Cardone, like he sells courses. Like a lot of people know who Grant Cardone is, and I would say the majority of people that know, they look at him scam. Patrick Bet-David, another one of the celebritized entrepreneurs, he had PHP. A lot of people think PHP is a scam. Like they're all really, really great courses. They're all really good programs, but how do you plan on differentiating like your courses, your programs, so that as you scale and you start to create these courses for people, like
I'll give you a little secret that
people
none
gonna
of
know
these
it's real?
guys really are thinking about. Like, quite frankly, when you buy a course from me, or you buy you part of my newsletter, and you come to my events, what I'm looking for is somebody to invest in. And I can find 1 out of 100. I'm looking for us to spend time together to see who my next investment is. I want to make nothing, but I want you to pay to have skin in the game to be there. And when I find people that are willing to go all in, to show up to the events, and they're actually doing the work that I put into the course, and I see the numbers because I get access to it, I'm like, that's my next investment. That's a great investment. That's a guy I want to get behind. I want to change his life. Because listen, I want the money to work for me too, because I get to help more and more people. So like the little secret sauce behind, I'm never going to be the best course seller. I'm going to be a guy that literally puts it out and finds the best investments to make. And I'm going to get behind great people that have a big dream, that are going to help out everybody that's on their team. And they're going to give first and they're going to receive last. They're going to eat last. Leaders eat last. So the secret sauce is, Grant Cardone sells a pissload of courses. He uses that he sells more courses than he makes on real estate. That's no bullshit. All these guys that want to get rich on courses. I'm looking to find opportunities from this kind of stuff. And that's the real answer. I mean, literally, what am I going to do? Even if I sold a ton of courses, how does that even come? I would have to sell hundreds of millions of courses. Like, there's no point. And then I get in trouble because we didn't fulfill it properly and all this shit. I don't even want that. If I had a way to shave off everybody and say, these are the 10 people that are going to do it, because they're going to call me up and say this, and this is what the calls I get. I was about to get through a divorce. I was about to commit suicide. I was literally about to lose my kids. I was going to lose it all. And because of you, and it's not because of me, because they did something, because they saw something by me, but it changed my life. A lady just posted, and she goes, when I was at your last event, you said no more excuses. She lost 50 pounds. The smile on her face when I saw her changed everything. You cannot put a price on that. So the biggest thing for me is like that kind of feedback. When people take action, I want to be part of it because I know it's going to come back full circle. If I have an opportunity to change lives, you think a preacher goes like this when they're at church? When you give 10%, yeah, they get paid off of that. Their church and congregation grows. Like, it's not just going straight to God. It's not like, hey, God, made some money this week. They've got to grow that. And people don't understand. Yes, your team's got to grow. If you want to affect more people, if you want to make more change in this world, you're not going to just so I'm going to make the money from here and give it all here, or can we make enough money to afford the people to grow this thing? And then guess what? If I keep buying companies with 500 people in them, and then they have 3 kids, guess what? I'm solving thousands of people's problems every time I make an investment. And there will be a time where I'm making 1 investment a week. You want to make real change? That's how you do it.
Love it. I just want to say I appreciate you for coming on today, taking the time in. I know it's hard to book you and hard to schedule you.
No, it's great.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. This was a lot of really good stuff. So thank you again for coming on, man. And that's a wrap here at the Playbook.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.